the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is EDtech, episode 26, recorded Tuesday, April 15th, 2014. Don't use green. EDtech is brought to you by Middle Atlantic Products and their TechPed technology pedestals. Middle Atlantic Products, what great systems are built on. This is EDtech, your education-focused show put on to you by the fine folks at AVNation. Hi, my name is Tom Albright. I'm your host. With us, as always, Mr. Greg Brown, UCLA Bruin extraordinaire, head of the Technology Managers Council, and an all-around good guy. How are you, brother?
Thank you, Tim. Very well. Glad to be here.
Also with us from far across the other side of the country, Scott Tyner from Bates College, former head of the Technology Managers Council, and also an all-around good guy. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm honored to be here with such luminaries as Tim and Greg.
We were talking before the show. Both of these guys have credentials that I can only aspire to. And now that I'm no longer a technology manager, I guess that's one thing I can cross off my list. So.
That's an aspiration in and of itself.
It is. You know what? It is. And Ernie Bailey, who's been on more than once, he also was a former Technology Managers Council. So I don't know why you guys keep letting me hang out with you. So
we don't either.
You feel
Watch
sorry.
this show long enough. You know, we're going to come knocking on your door and appoint you.
Okay, all right.
Well, we have no choice. You're the host of the show.
Well, that is true. There's that. Speaking of the show, we have a sponsor this month, a brand new sponsor. EDtech is brought to you by Middle Atlantic Products and their TechPed technology pedestals. Middle Atlantic Products, what great systems are built on. This month on EDtech, actually, we've got a blog post by each of you fine gentlemen that we're going to talk about. Scott writes for Rave Publications in their education section, so there's one about customer service. And Greg Brown goes after some companies for some stuff. Just a few. But first, we're going to kick this off with our good folks, our good friends over at Extron. And the reason I bring this up, and actually Scott just asked, is this an old product? Well, kind of, sort of. It's their IN1608. And the thing about the IN1608 is now you have it with a control processor. And so here's the deal. Extron, back in January, right before ISE, they released their DX, their cross-point switcher, and it was their new digital one. And they were marketing it to be the new all-in-one box with up against the DMPS from Crestron and the Nova from AMX. And so folks in the industry took issue with the fact that they were trying to do that because it was missing something of that all-in-one box, and that was a control system. And so about 2 or 3 weeks ago, they threw the control system in, and good for them. You know, yay! It's now officially an all-in-one box. And now it seems like that's kind of where they're going with this. The IN1608 has a control system now, which it hasn't up until this point. Scott, we'll start with you on this one. Are they trying to? I guess the question is, what are they trying to do or be by integrating all these other ancillary boxes with the control system? And granted, it's a fairly robust control system. You can do quite a few things with Extron, just like you can do with AMX and Crestron. Are they trying to be a control system now more than the scalar switcher company that they've been in the past?
You know, I really don't know. I think one of the things we talked about in the past, from my perspective, is that we joke about Extron a little bit, but they've always been very clear about their direction. You know, and certainly we know that K through 12 has always been a huge market for Extron, a really great market for Extron, and they make great products for K through 12. I don't actually really, I don't know enough about what an Extron processor would do, to be honest with you, to even make a comment on that. I will make a comment on one other thing, though, because it drives me over the edge when any company does this, not just Extron, is when they recommend shielded twisted pair. The entire point of using twisted pair is to use the common wire that everybody uses all the time. Everybody knows how to punch down. And when you start using shielded twisted pair, in my opinion, you might as well go back to old RGB cable because it's not there all the time, and it's not something that's easy to use.
Come on, RGB? You mean like 5BNC RGB or?
Well, frankly, it's an exaggeration, but it's easier to terminate than shielded twisted pair, and to actually keep that shield going through the whole way.
Yeah, because that little foil is a pain in the butt, honestly. So
and to if you have to patch down anywhere and you've got to get the patch that's all shielded, it's such a pain, and it takes away that convenience factor that was the real big push for the cat cable.
Well, who else? Greg, we'll get to you in a second on this because I'll ask you the same question.
Waiting patiently.
Yeah, he's biting his lip, his tongue right now. Besides, I can think of Aurora suggests doesn't care what you do with your twisted pair. They can shielded, unshielded, doesn't matter. And I can't think of anybody else, but Crestron, AMX, and Extron all recommend, right, up to a certain point when you get to a certain distance, shielded twisted pair, don't they?
So they do. My experience with Crestron is that's different. Like if you look at Extron's site right now, I mean, red letters right there. It's strongly recommended. Crestron, they're gonna talk to you and essentially say, you've got to be going a pretty big distance, carrying pretty big resolution to have to worry about that. My experience is you call Extron tech support, and that's the first question they're going to ask you, even if you're going 20 feet, is are you using shielded twisted pair?
It's kind of like Crestron's. What version of firmware are you using? So.
Right. I always want to answer, what version should I be using?
The answer is yes.
The question is, what is this week's version?
What is this week's version? Yes. I never mind. I'm not going to get. Yes, I am. I cut on site the other day, and I'm trying to figure this system out, and it's just not happening. And overnight, they had updated Toolbox, which if you don't know what that is for Crestron, that's the software you use to talk to the processor and kind of troubleshoot it. And sure enough, that's what it was. I had to update the stupid version of Toolbox. Anyhow. Mr. Brown, what are our fine friends over at Extron doing with all these control systems everywhere?
Honestly, what are they doing? They're trying to play you can do everything with our stuff that you can do with Crestron after all game.
Okay, are they winning at that?
Well, no. Now I think this is a good move. I think these are good products for them. I'm glad they came out with them. I think they definitely give you some options that they needed to have in their stable. What concerns me a little bit, to be honest, as much as I love giving Extron a hard time as you guys. No, actually, I don't think I enjoy giving Extron a hard time quite as much as you guys do, but I do enjoy it. Partially because they take it so badly. They are playing kind of the Me Too game, and okay, everybody has to do that in our industry to a certain extent when you've got competitors, but Extron used to have a lot of really novel stuff that you couldn't get from everybody else. And stuff that was really, in many cases, a little unique and problem solved in ways that other stuff didn't. And I really came to love them for that. And I'm afraid, honestly, I am concerned that they've sort of lost their way a little bit in that direction. And they have gotten a few steps behind, and they're playing the Me Too game kind of to catch up. And I hope, although these are good products, I hope what we don't see going into the next 3, 4, 5 years is just a continuing string of, oh, this is Extron's version of the AMX such and such or the Crestron such and such. Because that'll keep them in business, but I think those guys will beat them at that game, just being on the technological cutting edge.
So you think they've lost their niche? I'm out almost.
I'm concerned. I'm very happy having three big, healthy, competing control system companies, and there's a fourth and fifth out there who are pissed off at me right now. Undoubtedly, I don't know who they are, but that's kind of the point. I'll probably get a call from Kramer after this. Watch.
Kramer doesn't do control.
I'm glad we have this big three, and they're generally big and healthy and competitive and involved in a lot of projects. And I don't want to see one of these guys like Extron really starting to lose their way and get off the path.
No, I would agree with you there. I mean, I have used Extron control before. Actually, that was the first control system I ever used. It was the global configurator and the global viewer stuff, and it was very good. It lets you do it's not programming, right? It's configuring, and they'll even say it's called a global configurator for a reason.
Right.
But it does give you some hooks in to do some custom code if you know it and if you need to. So.
Right.
All right, let's talk about blog posts here. Let's start with Mr. Tyners here, because Scott, yours actually hit a chord with me, because one of the things that I took away from this year's NSCA Business Leadership Council was customer service. The fact that that's where the money is, that's where you make your bones, that is where you're either going to make or break as a company and as an integrator. You make some interesting points with with a particular company. Let's just say, here's the thing, guys. When I want to ask both of you this, when it comes down to dollars and cents, and we all three know this because I used to work in education. You guys still do. When it comes to bid contracts and things that nature, when it comes down to a couple dollars here and a couple dollars there, how important is it that when you are in those meetings and the bid openings are happening and you see customer company A and then company B and company C, and there's $10, $20, maybe $100 difference, how important is your past relationships, or at least your knowledge of how they treat their customers? How important is that, Scott?
Well, for me, it's 100%. It's really all that matters. Fortunately, I'm at a private institution, and so we don't have to bid out like some of the public ones do.
Very cool.
Now, that's not to say we don't. I mean, if we're building a new building, of course we're going to put that out to bid. But if I'm going to spend $30,000 or $40,000 on a room upgrade this summer, I do not have to bid that out. I don't have to bid any part of that out. And that's why I wrote in that article, the company that we buy stuff from, and I've written in other articles about that whole relationship thing. The company that we buy the equipment from, we buy everything from. And I mean everything. And so, like I've said in the past, people could look at that and go, well, they've kind of got you over a barrel, don't you? Don't they? And I say, well, and I've got them over one. So it's we take care of each other. Mm-hmm. And that article is, telling me, 100% about exactly how that benefits us. Because if this was a company who I had only, even if it was a local company that I had bought four monitors from to hang in there, and I called them and said, well, you got to take them back and give me new ones, and I don't care what you do with them, they would have just been like, we can't do it, we can't.
Yeah. Mr. Brown, you are at a public institution, and I'm not familiar with all of California's laws and bylaws, but I believe you do have to bid after a certain amount.
Yeah, and how thorough. We can buy anything under $5,000 here.
Wow, okay.
Above that, at different points, it becomes a more official bid. Although, let's just say, any technology manager worth their salt can write a bid spec to specify to force really any equipment they want. If they
equipment, yes, but integrator, no, though, right?
Well, we don't use integrators, so I don't have that problem.
Well, never mind then. So, you don't use any integrators at all?
We do everything in-house.
Wow.
Better, faster, cheaper.
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes.
No, better, faster, cheaper, more reliable.
Okay. Jeez.
Any other questions?
No.
That's some older blog posts that talk about
Let's go on to your blog post, because speaking of the fact that you do everything yourself, this is... By the way, I love the picture here. It's the.
I'm surprised that I suggested it, and I'm surprised they went with it. That's from Oliver Twist.
Oliver Twist, please, sir, may I have another? Actually, you said, please, sir, may I buy your product without seeing it? Said no one ever. And you make some good points, and I will voice what I've said before to you. You're UC freaking LA, right?
That was you getting quoted in there.
You should have people knocking down your door to come bring you product. Scott, I'm going to pick on you, and I'll pick on my old institutions.
But we don't. And the inspiration of this was a company that basically said, hey, this integrator has one. It's the same company that it's right in the front there with the projector. They basically wanted to point us to an integrator. Same company that has an interactive whiteboard about an hour that way that we can pile everybody, I guess, into the back of an old station wagon and drive out there some afternoon if we want to play with it. Yeah. But those are our options for getting a demo of this one particular company that I won't mention here, but I just think they're
That's very smart of you, by the way. Sorry. That was a joke. Smart's a company that makes interactive.
I was
sorry, I had to explain it.
I just got it. I'm glad you explained it.
All right, so Scott is, he and
I know what it feels like to get tossed under the bus.
Scott and I have had this experience where we've talked off the air and at Infocom and stuff like that, where he and I are Greg is bemoaning the fact that he has vendors lining up out the door and nobody comes to see poor Scott and me, because Scott's up in the middle of Maine and I was a little community college. So, gentlemen, I will ask you this, and not that I had any success in this really, with the exception of, honestly, Extron and Crestron were the two companies, and actually Kramer towards the end of my tenure at the college. How do you get demos? How do you get reps' attention? How do you get these companies that are multi-billion dollar companies to pay attention to your little institution, whether you're going to spend $20,000 a year on their product or $100 million a year on their product? How do you get their attention and get them to help you spec their product and take a look at their stuff?
Well, I can answer that in two separate ways. The first one about how you get their attention is you go on AVNation EdTech podcast and say bad things about them. Or you write a blog for Rave Pubs and you say bad things about them. All of a sudden, you've got their attention. No, it's interesting. I actually say that, but I'm joking because amazingly enough, and I mean, I don't know what you have for viewership, but some people watch us, some people read Rave Pubs. We've talked about this before, and they still aren't calling to offer, even to come do demos of stuff. It's simply amazing to me, the lack of companies that do that. And so what we do is, we have to stay up to date ourselves. We have to read watch your podcast. We have to, read the industry magazines, go to trade shows if possible, get out to Infocom, around the regions when possible, because they just don't come here, and it amazes me to this day. They don't even, they're not even willing to put together a regional thing for, there's not a ton, but, in Maine and New Hampshire, you could easily get 15 or 20 colleges to get together, put on a lunch and do a little demo. They don't even do that. Greg's saying he's not going to drive an hour up the road. I'll drive 2 hours down the road for free lunch and a demo, but they don't even do it.
See, and that's something that that's what cracks me up is I have a buddy he's a manufacturer's rep, and he does that all the time, right? He's more in the integration side, and he reps microphones, and so he'll go to an area that's not as populated as, let's say, St. Louis or Chicago or what have you, and he'll get a bunch of integrators together and say, hey, you know what? Let's all meet at this place for lunch. I'll put my stuff, my rack, and I'll show you all the latest, greatest microphones and wireless stuff, this, that, and the other. And the fact that they don't do that, I think, is still confusing to me.
It is. You people who've listened to this podcast know that we are an NEC house as far as projectors go. That's simply because we were used to be a Sony house, and when I came in, they were too expensive. We went to the NEC, and we're just an NEC house now because no other projector manufacturer has ever called me and said, "Can I come meet with you and show you my Panasonics, my Epsons, my any of that stuff?" And if they did, I'd be more than willing to listen. And I get it, it's 10 projectors a year or something. But if I was a salesman, 10 projectors a year is 10 projectors a year.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is huge, and we are largely a Panasonic house. And as much as I would love to have that line of vendors, lined up outside the door, that hasn't happened either. I have probably 4 or 5 people who call on me semi-regularly. That's not the sum total of the AV industry world as we know it. No. And we're a huge Panasonic house, largely because we have a really good Panasonic rep who stops by regularly, who knows, another thing I mentioned in my blog, who knows what we use and what we don't use, doesn't call us up when, bring out something silly that we aren't going to like, but calls us up if something, that might be useful to us comes out, and stays in touch. And they're about the only projector manufacturer who has really consistently done that for the past few years.
Yeah, when I was working for
until now, my phone's ringing.
Yeah, I think I only had one manufacturer, and that was Mitsubishi. Ironically enough, and now they're out of business. So
they were great for a while, and we got some Mitsubishis in here, and then poof, they disappeared off the face of the planet. Even tried to get a hold of them once, and I don't think I got a reply back. It was really weird.
Well, now they don't. Well, now they don't make projectors, so be glad you don't.
Maybe it was for the better.
For the better.
Some of that does get back to that customer service though piece, which is that there are things, and I think that Crestron and Extron, to be honest with you, are two of the ones who really stand out in my mind as far as when I call those companies and say to them, and Crestron, I understand I spend a lot more money with them, but even Extron, who I don't spend a lot of money with, if I call them and say to them, I have a problem and I need you to focus on it, they snap right to it and focus on it. We had an issue with a couple of Extron over CAT extenders. We got right up to their top level tier technical support. They sent us some new ones with some different chips in them. They were all over it, and they took care of it. And so that if you're doing that, then I can see you not visiting me as often if you're doing this great customer support.
Yeah.
But so many companies don't do that.
Yeah, that is one thing that Extron has always done really well, regardless of how much money you spend with them. If you have one of their products in your hand, they're 9 times out of 10. I'm not going to say every time, but 9 times out of 10, they're gonna help you out and at least help you figure out the problem. So.
Yep.
All right, guys, let's talk about projectors. Moving on from that, Casio is debuting a brand new ultra short throw lamp-free projector, and where I wanted to go with this is to kind of see where you guys get your crystal balls out. It's going for about $2,000, which is interesting to me. Is a 5-year warranty and a 10,000 hour warranty on the lamp, or on the light. It's not lamp. So the question is this: where are we going with this? Is this where we're moving to? Is the lampless stuff where this is going to be overtaking, and so you're going to have to figure in the cost of the projector plus what you may or may not have spent on lamps? Greg, is this where we're headed? Is this whole lamp-free thing, or are we going to be still dealing with something to replace over the next few years?
You know how there's always a point in the show where I seem to become the resident curmudgeon?
That's at the start, but yes, go ahead.
No, it's now today.
Okay.
I think this is the point where I mentioned I don't like short throw projectors and I don't like laser projectors. And I don't like short throw projectors because they generally, most of them don't make an image size that's very useful to me. Okay, in maybe some of our smaller classrooms, but I'd like to see more up in the 10, 12 foot diagonal sort of range, particularly in the 16 by 9 range.
Yeah.
Not a lot out there. And projectors that aren't so damn tweaky when it comes to getting the image focused and right. With the short throw, you're like you're like playing with that sort of a thing, and you get this corner looking right, and then this corner is fuzzy. They're a pain in the butt. And on top of that, there's a new thing in the AV world that laser projectors really haven't gotten a hold of yet, or really haven't come to terms with yet. It's called the color green. It's kind of a new concept. It hasn't been around long. Oh well, since like the days of NTSC perhaps, but it's been kind of a sleeping technology. And I look at all of the laser projectors I've seen, and the greens are either sort of more of a straw color, or they're like electric green. I have yet to see a laser projector that I thought could do green worth a damn, to be honest. That being said, they're certainly making an effort to stake out their corner of the crappy little laser projector corner of the market, and that's fine. Everybody needs a gimmick. I shouldn't. No, they're making inexpensive projectors. Apparently, a lot of people like them. More power to them. I like seeing the competition. There's certainly enough people who will come out with something and then sit on their butts for years. That's not what these folks at Casio are doing. And so, fine, more power to them. I just would like to see those things before I get too excited about either short throw or lasers.
That was a little passive aggressive there, Mr. Brown, but I liked it. So.
Passive aggressive from me?
No.
From moi? Here on this show?
Oh my! All right, Mr. Tyner.
That's a novelty.
Are we headed to lamp-free land with not just this, but other?
Yes, we are. Eventually.
Eventually,
I think so.
Hey, is your name Mr. Tyner?
Yeah, well,
I'll steal any thunder I can.
So before I answer, I just got to tell Greg a couple things. First, I've seen a lot of technology people who would simply tell their users, just don't use green, and then you don't have a problem.
Don't use green in your PowerPoint. There we go.
Yeah, exactly. I know plenty of people who would tell them that.
Scott, you have a future in sales and marketing, my boy.
Which it cracks me up. The other one is it is true that Casio has not been sitting on their butts doing nothing, because if they did, they'd still be making calculators and electronic keyboards.
Absolutely.
Now, with all that said, I think lampless, is got to be the point of the future. If for environmental reasons, for total cost of ownership reasons. I like Greg. This article didn't excite me much, because I think that a short throw projector is a specialty projector for a specific purpose, and we don't see it very often here at Bates. We don't have a short throw projector anywhere on campus. So the lampless piece interested me, but the fact that it's a short throw, I don't know. Whenever I see them, I'm just like, I don't know what the big thing about them is.
I think it could really give us some nice options as they get into bigger screens and also brighter, into putting out more light.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and here's the thing and this is just from my perspective. I see the need for short throw projectors when you have an installation where either the ceiling is too low, or whatever reason, you need to get that projector as close as possible to the screen, so it's either not trying to shoot through the professor or what have you. But those are special use cases. I'll absolutely grant you that.
Ceiling too high.
Yeah, ceiling too high.
True.
Or the room, ceiling too high and the room's too big. You can't put it on a back wall because it's so far back. But then you've got too small of an image.
Well, yeah, that's true too.
I have 10 of them in a string of 10 rooms where it has this like decorative acoustic plaster on the ceiling. It's literally spongy when you touch it, and it's like this half-inch thick sprayed on stuff, and it's like a hard deck above it with no clearance.
Wow.
So just impossible to work with. I also wanted to do like wire mold, and that would have been pretty aesthetically offensive. Yeah, not that stopped us a lot.
Well, all right. Well, gentlemen, this is the time.
Product plug time.
Product plug. Yes, product plug time. Jeez
So have they signed on for like one show, or have they just never watched and they don't know any better and they've signed on for multiple shows?
Middle Atlantic has thankfully signed on for an exclusive sponsorship for 4 months. So
wow, great!
You can either make fun of them if you'd like, Mr. Brown, or
Did they ask for an escape clause in there?
Well, only if you are on a show, then they can escape as much as possible.
Okay, well.
So, good night. We joked for so long about offending our sponsors when we didn't have any, and now it's like.
And now let's see how long it takes.
Now let's see how long it takes. Yeah. All right.
Actually, I like Middle Atlantic. They make great stuff. I use it all the time, and other than a few things that got shipped from New Jersey, getting a little beaten up by the time it got out here, we haven't had any sort of problems with them.
Yeah, and it actually I sent Becky from Middle Atlantic an email and said, you know what, in conversing back and forth, I've used their credenzas and their racks for a number of years, and that's why I was very excited to talk about this, because basically this is taking the credenza idea and putting it into a conference room table, right? Let's do the whole thing officially now. EDtech is sponsored exclusively by Middle Atlantic Products. This is exactly what they want us to talk about. It's their new line of technology pedestals. It is the credenza, only it's in conference room table form. They have 2 pedestal versions and 1 pedestal version if you're thinking more along the lines of like for a huddle room or what have you. It's a smaller table, but you still have the gear inside the leg, actually. And if you take a look at the website, you can see it being built piece by piece. There's the 2 pedestals there. You load the gear up, you put the table on top, you put the wrappings around it. You've got cable poke-throughs at both ends, so you can have everything right there, and a nice little cable that goes down through the floor and up to the display. Bada boom, bada bing. So all kinds of options. They've got power. They got wire mold cable retractors. Tons and tons of finishes in case you have an interior decorator or just somebody that thinks they know that that color doesn't go with that. That's whatever.
I gotta make a couple comments here.
Go ahead.
The first one is I think that's fantastic because I look at this table, the fourth picture that's got the full table with the chairs around it. We built something almost exactly like this a couple summers ago for a conference room, and it was a pain because we had to get a table that was just right. We had to get different legs for it. We had to cut the holes through the table ourselves, and so to see a piece like this, I can imagine our lives would have been much easier, and our continued life would be easier to be able to get into that, and everything's in a rack, not kind of stuffed in these table legs with Velcro and the like. So I think that's fantastic. The other one that I like about Mid-Atlantic, it's a very quick story. We had an integrator come in once and build the Middle Atlantic rack for us. And when they were done, they went to put the doors on. The doors wouldn't fit, and the doors wouldn't fit, and the doors wouldn't fit. And they were figuring out why. And so me and my AV engineer looked at it, and we said, now you see up here in the top corner, that's supposed to be an MA, not a W.
Oh, jeez.
They had built the rack upside down, so we couldn't get the doors on.
That would explain. See, it even tells you which side is up. So
it does. They even go so far to help you. If you look, you'll see the MA for Middle Atlantic.
If you look, not if you assume you know what you're doing.
Right, and I can just tell you, it's nothing to do with Middle Atlantic, obviously. That guy had a really bad day.
I'll bet. That guy had a rough time as long as he worked for that company, because that's something you don't forget.
No, and we were like, no, we actually really want doors. We're not trying to be idiots here.
Jeez. All right, go by the website if you would, please, middleatlantic.com/avnation-techped. middleatlantic.com/avnation-techped. Middle Atlantic Products, what great systems are built on. So thank you guys, that was fun. All right, moving on. HDMI 2.0. Dun, dun, dun. Are we ready for this, guys? And I know that's a yes or no question, but the first, it's an honest question. As education purveyors, as technology managers, as people who still supply VCRs to our fine professors. Scott, is the education market ready for HDMI 2.0?
I have to just claim ignorance here. I don't know. I don't even know what HDMI 2.0
okay,
is.
No, that's a fair question.
Talk to Mr. Brown.
That's a fair question. So here's the basicness, right? You've got a new version of HDCP coming down the pike, HDCP 2.2, I believe. HDMI 2.0 is also supposed to support 4K video at 60 hertz. Also gives you 32 channels of audio and some other kind of neat features. The biggest bones about this that everybody's saying is, yay, cool, we've got something that'll support 4K, except the fact that there aren't any chips yet in the in the products themselves. But that's neither here nor there. I shouldn't say in the products, in the switching products, and in the cabling as of right now. Obviously, there are displays out there that will support 4K, but that's the only thing. So, Greg, are we ready? Is education ready for 4K and for HDMI 2.0?
Actually, I would file this in the same folder with the 4K information. It's up there on the shelf. It's not in the hot bin. It's in the. This is moderately interesting and will become important down the road, but it's not something I need to concern myself about. It's not something I've paid a lot of attention to. Like Scott said, we need somebody intelligent to talk about something like this. Where's Matt when you need him?
He's working for Crestron.
Yeah. Maybe there's a lesson for us to learn in that there somewhere.
I learned it, just for the record. Just remind.
Well, you work for an integrator. That doesn't count.
Well, it is, but never mind. I'm not going to go down there. You can win $25,000.
Okay, it does, but only if you use both hands.
$25,000, I said, from NEC. There you go, Mr. Tyner. There's your 25. There's some money back from your folks. If you go to NEC.com or NECdisplay.com, Tech Makeover, you can win a $25,000 technology makeover for your school. So.
And it goes on for the next month. Last time we publicized one of these things, it was, I think we mentioned it the day after
it ended.
Contest was over, which I think was perhaps a little bit of poor planning on our part. But hey, we got this one in time.
All right, guys.
And it's open to higher ed too, which a bunch of these aren't. I thought that was interesting.
Well,
it's open to anyone, it seems.
I'll tell you what, I think it's great that NEC does this. I think it's great that any place gives back to funding to education. I particularly think of, K-12 schools and things like that just they don't have that technology budget. But I'm going to be the curmudgeon one here, Greg, and just say what drives me nuts is on Facebook when everybody I know is like, go vote for my kid's school for this contest. And, every day you're asked to go and make a new vote. And that's what NEC is saying, that after they pick the top 3, they're going to get voted on. So I'm sure that all my friends on Facebook will be posting for me to go and vote for their kid's school.
Well,
I will solve your issue and I will out curmudgeon you in one fell swoop. I deleted my Facebook profile a couple years ago. I just got tired of it.
I have no comment for that. So let's talk about a couple more things, guys.
I'm wondering
yes.
with that if we could put in to do a tech makeover of our house
for $25,000. Sure.
Actually, hey, I finally joined.
Tim will design it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's. Oh yeah, and I'm sure Tim would put in some special features for my house.
Yes. Where it locks you out.
I joined the digital age a few weeks ago.
You finally got a cell phone?
I have a cell phone. I got a digital big flat panel television.
Oh wow, very good.
I actually won it.
So you didn't actually purchase it.
No, I didn't. I'm far too cheap for that. Hey, the 32-inch CRT is still perfectly good.
That's what I keep telling my kids.
But I went to the Stampede dealer show, and it is open to tech managers and end users. I know a bunch of those shows aren't, but the Stampede show, make a note everybody, for when it comes to your town, is open to end users. They were very nice, and I got the little card and got it stamped by everybody and tossed it in the fishbowl at the end, and I won they had a bunch of like t-shirts and things like that they gave away, but I won the big prize, a 42-inch LG.
Good for you.
Yeah,
nice.
So now my cable bill has gone up considerably as I now get bits and zeros, which are much more expensive, apparently.
It's more expensive to push ones and zeros down that copper pipe than it is, analog TV for some reason. All right, guys, let's talk about a couple different things. First of all, Infocom on campus. I mentioned the fact that I don't belong on this show because that gentleman right there, Mr. Scott Tyner, will be doing one of these in grand old MIT. Hello.
Hey, Scott.
Yeah, it's really exciting. We're doing it's called Infocom on Campus, and I'm trying to actually dig up the exact date of it right now as I'm talking, and I can
May
tell
29th.
you it's May 29th. Yeah. Thank you. I don't know who said that, but way to go.
The voice of God.
That is it.
It's gonna be at MIT. There's gonna be Bill Natras is going to be moderating it. I'm going to be there, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of talk about class capture, but class capture in a sense that how it's changing education. What are some of the things that we didn't necessarily expect that now we're seeing it change? And there's going to be another gentleman there. Boy, I said I want to talk about this, and now I'm forgetting everybody who's going to be there. Bill Dale, I think, is his name. Warren Dale is his name. I'm sorry.
Oh, Warren is.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he should. I was going to say, when I was talking to him the other day, he's from down in Southern California. I said I knew some guys at UCLA.
He said he didn't. One of my recommendations.
Oh, he said he didn't know anybody he liked at UCLA. I didn't know.
That doesn't surprise me. But he was one of my recommendations.
Oh,
and so it sounds like Warren's actually got a really interesting perspective on, again, the changing of technology and the changing of education. So it's going to be a really cool time, and I think it's a 6-hour thing, or so. I don't know. It's probably just a regional thing, but if you're in the region and are interested in coming on up, it'd be really cool to have you there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I don't know the details. In fact, any tech managers can tune in tomorrow to the Technology Managers Council meeting, where we will get an update from the folks at the mothership about these. But there is one in the planning stages for the West Coast. UC Davis was being talked about last I heard.
Now, Greg, or I should Tim, when this comes out, it won't be tomorrow anymore, will it?
No, it'll be past. But go ahead.
He's just reminding that I'm.
Oh, that's right.
Me that I'm
sorry.
plugging the meeting, which is tomorrow, which is probably 2 weeks ago by the time.
It'll be a week from now, but yeah,
listening to this.
April 16th is when the Technology Managers Council would have been had.
But I'm sure there's some live viewers right now, Greg, and those are the ones you were speaking to.
Yeah, but we're talking technology managers. I mean, happy frickin' Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yeah. Anyhow.
Because that's about the time they'll get to watching this or listening to
Are you kidding me? There's, you guys don't do anything. I used to be a tech manager. I know. You get the whole next week off.
Well, if you're an integrator now, you are perfectly qualified.
Yeah. Yeah. One more thing. Digital signage for technology managers. It's a class put on by Infocom. It's an online course. We wanted to talk about it.
So I'll just jump in because I took part in creating the class with a couple other technology managers and people.
File this under tooting your own horn.
Oh, be quiet, Mr. Chairman.
Right, Greg. I got to do something to keep up with you. So we did it in actually a very quick span. The thing that's really cool about it is whether you have got some digital signage going right now or you're just thinking about digital signage, it gets you in some of that mindset about what do I need to consider, what are some of the options. If you've already got it in place, some things you might not have thought about as far as fire code and life safety issues that you need to be aware of. So it's well worth the time, and it gives you some CTS reaccreditation.
Oh, very cool.
And it's a free course, right?
I do not believe it's a free course.
It is not a free course. For members, it is $99. For
Is it
non-members,
okay.
it's $150,
Right,
and it gives you 5 RUs, which are renewal units. So.
That's not a bad chunk of RUs.
No, not when it's was it 30 to have every 3 years. So I just renewed mine here recently. So
I am running out next year, so I've got to look at something myself.
Yeah, my Crestron certification class last week. We'll go to that, and maybe I'll do some this summer in Infocom. So, all right, guys, that will do it for us and for this month. Greg Brown, the fine UCLA Bruin and Technology Manager Council Chairman, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Where can people find you if they'd like to read more of your stuff?
Well, my latest blog there on Infocom All Voices, and if you work at it, they're not particularly well indexed, but there's a bunch of other scandalous and libelous stuff on there that I've written. Or you can track me down on LinkedIn or Twitter at avgreg.
Okay. Yeah, go add to Greg's LinkedIn total. He's like 2,000.
Hey, why
2,000
not?
now.
You know, at least somebody here is, uses LinkedIn as a tool. Somebody who has 663 contacts. Thank you very much.
Oh, good Lord.
File that under tooting your own horn.
All right, Mr. Tyner, where can people find? Thank you, sir. By the way, and where can people find you and your prose?
So I write 2 columns for Rave Publications, one in the digital signage, one in their EdTech, and then I do blogging a couple times a month for them. I am you can find me more and more on Twitter. I'm finding Twitter to just even more and more be an excellent resource. So you can find me there. LinkedIn, Greg, I'm sorry, I don't know. It's so 2008 for me. LinkedIn, I just can't get into it. But I am on there, and feel free to connect to me, and maybe you can drag me in.
Hey, 2008, something to remind you of your high school days,
Wow.
Whoa, gee, I wish that were true.
Yeah, me
So this
too.
is the big year for me. I turned 40 this year,
You too?
Yes.
See, there's a
40
lot.
years old.
There are a number of us. I was talking with, I'll punk him out. I don't care. Chris Netto from Red Band. There are a number of us who are turning 40, and we're going to do something at Infocom. I'm not quite sure what yet. But you turn 40, I turn 40. Harry Mead, A.B. Dawn's husband, turns 40 this year. Chris Netto turns 40 this year. 1974 was a busy year, apparently.
I don't know what was going on in early 1974, late 73. I might have to get to Infocom just for that party.
Yeah. It's. I'm not sure what we're doing yet, but we're going to do something. So, my name is Tim Albright, and I do turn 40 this year, about a month and a half. But don't follow me. Don't try to find me. Go to the website if you would, please. AVNation.tv. AVNation.tv. You'll find this fine program and tons of others. Our weekly news and information show called AV Week. We have another weekly show, the AV App Show. A brand new DIY posted this week. We've got one on Pico projectors. And George Tucker just started a new lighting show. I don't know anything about lighting, but it was very interesting listen when I listened to it.
He's a bright guy.
He is a very, very, very nice, very bright. Yeah, anyhow. But yeah, go by the website, avnation.tv, avnation.tv. Thanks to Mid-Atlantic for their sponsorships. What great systems are built on. Thank you so much for listening. This has been EdTech.